Hello, good people, and welcome to the Fusing Shop. If this is your first time here, I'd like to give you a nice howdy doody. Welcome to our glass blowing channel. In this video, we're going to be doing an implosion style marble. We're going to be using silver and gold fume for the implosion, and this particular implosion is going to be done on hollow tubing, which is a little bit different than the implosion video that I did previously, which was done on solid rod. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below, and you can check that out when you get a chance. So right now, I am just heating up the end of my tubing. In a minute, I'm about heating up about an inch of that tubing, and then I am going to be puffing that out in a minute. So just go ahead, get a nice even heat. You want to make sure it gets to like a dull kind of orange color before you start puffing this out. And you want to make sure that it is heated evenly all the way around. So remember to rotate that rod in the flame, and I like to rotate towards me. I find that that works for me. You could rotate whatever is comfortable for you. And when you take it out of the flame, wait a couple seconds before you give a gentle puff. You don't need to blow hard into the tube, just be gentle with the glass. There's no reason to go crazy here. Give a nice gentle puff, and I like to rotate about a quarter turn and then give a little puff and then rotate and puff and rotate and puff. This way you get a nice even bubble. All right, that's looking pretty good. And I'm gonna do some adjustments to the flame to get it to a nice fuming flame that I'm gonna be using. And the first first metal that I'm gonna be fuming is the silver. So I got my silver on the end of that punty. And sometimes you have to play with the flame chemistry a little bit to get it to work. So just keep that in mind. That wasn't giving me the fume that I wanted, so I adjusted the flame a little bit. Give me that nice pinpoint flame that's good for doing this type of work. And keep your fume close to the cones of the fire. And when it starts to fume, you can actually see the flame change color. And you also see that that glass is turning a little bit yellow. There we go. Now you can see what it looks like. And now I am going to go ahead and put a little bit of gold onto the end of that ball. This way it kind of has a cool little fade effect in the glass. So just bouncing that in and out of the flame while rotating, while keeping that gold close to the cones of the fire. And just letting that build up on the glass. I always like to fume a little bit of silver first because it'll help the gold stick to the glass better. Okay, and now just going to add a little bit more silver. So just go ahead and you can see the flame changing color right there in that shot. Beautiful. And that is what that silver and gold fume are looking like right now. Now to keep the metal on the glass, I'm going to encase with some clear dots. And I'm just going to go around. You never want to go around more than the halfway point of your bubble. So I'm going a little bit above that and starting to make my dots a little bit above the halfway point because I am going to be imploding this design. So just go ahead, and I'm just dropping little dots of glass around. You want to try to get the spacing more than the size of the dots, right? That's what I find works best. So try to get them evenly spaced. All right, just keep going around the glass. Now I'm moving up a little bit, and I'm putting like kind of in between the dots that I just laid. So you could do whatever pattern works for you. You can make lines, you can make dots and lines. It's, again, your art and your preference. So just continue to go around, and it looks really cool. Looks like a kind of like a mace, a medieval kind of mace, as you keep adding the dots to the glass. And this, you want to be careful that you keep your glass hot, because it's very easy to crack it at this point. So just keep that in mind as you're laying your dots down. You don't want to be too slow, or if you do want to take your time, make sure you flash it every now and then in a nice soft annealing flame. This way, I'll just give you a quick shot of that because again, I wanted to get into that annealing flame and avoid any kind of cracks. So just get that annealing flame going, and this also helps strike the fume a little bit. And now my GoPro is having a problem with the white balance here. As you see, it turned back to normal now. I am thinking about a better place to put that GoPro because I do have a didymium lens on there, but for some reason the white balance is always a little bit funny. So if you guys have any suggestions on how to get that color issue worked out, by all means let me know. So right now I'm just doing your standard implosion. Pretty much you keep the tip of your glass in the fire and rotate. And just keep rotate, 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 keep rotating. And eventually that fume will begin to implode and move towards the center of the glass. So again, just keeping that tip in the fire and rotating the glass towards me. So just sit, chill out, relax. Excuse me. Keep rotating that glass, and you will start to see the pattern implode into the center of the glass. You can use a graphite paddle to help move things along. That is your preference. And if you have those tools available, then by all means go ahead and use them. I just like to chill out and rotate the glass. It's also just good practice and muscle memory to get used to rotating with your hands. The more you do it, of course, the better you get at it. So practice, practice, practice. So just keep going, rotate, rotate. And again, there's really no set rules for doing an implosion. You want to keep your implosion close to on center as you can. This way your design will be, in the middle of your piece rather than like off to the side. So, just keep that in mind as you're doing your implosion. You want it to be close to on center. And now I'm going with the elbows up position, having my glass angled downwards. And this again just helps the glass move a little bit faster and implode a little bit quicker. And now back to parallel. And it's good to change your angles every now and then. Again, get used to heating in different directions and different ways. You can see the implosion there. It's looking good. And again, make sure that you are working in a safe way and that you keep yourself safe and others around you. And, know what you're doing. If you're getting into glass blowing, take a couple classes with somebody before you start buying a torch and get started on your own. It's important to have the basics, especially, as far as safety goes, and ventilation. So those are really important. I know you could watch the videos on YouTube, but it's so much better to go and take an actual class from someone. This way, when something does get messed up, and you can rest assured that it will, that you know how to deal with it. So right now I'm attaching a punty because I am going to be detaching my tubing. So I just attached on a cold seal punty, and now I'm heating up to get ready to blow out a bubble. Changing the grip a little bit, and now I'm just going to puff that bubble out, and it makes a nice thin piece of glass. You don't want to you don't want to blow this out too much because you can make bubble trash. So just blow it out thin enough without popping it. And then I just popped a small hole, and now I flame cut all the way around and just cut that tube right off. And this leaves a little bit of excess glass on your design in which you could either tweeze it off, or I am just going to melt it back in with the rest of the piece. So you could tweeze it, or you could use another rod to peel off that extra glass. It's completely up to you and whatever your preference is. You do want to try to focus on leaving as little glass as possible, though, because the more glass you leave on, the more you have to take off. So just something to keep in mind. And right now I'm getting another glass rod hot as I rotate the piece. And this glass rod, I'm going to start to make a gather on it. So I'm just getting it hot and starting that gather because this is going to become my lens on the marble. So just getting it hot, starting to make the gather. Get used to working with two hands if you do plan on flame working, because there are so many times that you need to use two hands. And oh, there's what it's looking like. You can see all those cool little dots in there. So yeah, definitely get used to working with two hands. It's just something you're gonna need to get used to when you work with glass. Now I'm just smushing that clear rod onto my pattern now. And I'm pressing my right hand into my left hand and gathering up some clear, and that will form the lens when we go ahead and get to that point. But right now, again, just heating up that rod and gathering up glass, making sure everything looks good. You know, look at it from different angles to make sure that it's coming out the way you want. Don't just look from one angle, because remember, we're working in a three-dimensional world. So always keep that in mind as you're working. Okay, at this point, I am pretty happy with the size of the lens. And I'm going to sharpen up my flame a little bit, because now I'm going to go ahead and twist that implosion. And the way you do that is by heating up where the glass is the thickest. So I'm going to heat up right in that middle and just keep rotating it on center and get a lot of heat in there. And you can see my left hand has stopped and my right hand is continuing to rotate. And that will give us the twist. You can keep both hands rotating, and if one rotates faster than the other, this will also work. Again, different ways of doing it, and do whatever works best for you. So here I'm flame cutting off the punty. And I know if I'm going to be using these punties again, that it's best to clean off the end. So I'm just sharpening up that end because I'll be using that for a cold seal later on. So just go ahead and sharpen that up. Toss it down. It's always easier to do while it's hot than after you put it down and you have to reheat it. So try to keep that in mind as you're working to clean up those punties and have them ready for your next project or your next step or whatever. Um, so yeah, just inspecting what that looks like. You can see the twist in the glass now. Looks really cool. And now I'm going to be putting a backer on because this fume really pops when you have a nice backer. So I'm backing with my cobalt blue. I like using this when I do fume. It just gives a really cool effect. If you check out my Galaxy Marble video, I also use this same cobalt blue to back that marble. And that was also done with silver fume. This was a mixture of silver and gold. And right now I'm just forming a gather on that cobalt rod, getting it nice and juicy hot. And now I'm going to just be attaching it to the marble. And again, I'm going to be doing the same thing as I did with the clear. I'm going to put that heat solely onto the cobalt rod and gently push my left hand into the right hand and just let that glass start to gather. Nice even rotations. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. Just relax with the glass. Remember, this is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a tedious task. So keep that in mind. And now I'm just going to be using my graphite paddle to help paddle that design down into the rest of the marble. You don't have to do this. It's just another technique to help speed things along a little bit. And there you can see the white balance has shifted again with the GoPro. If you guys have any idea why that keeps happening, hit me with a comment below. It must be because of the different light from the torch and everything else that's going on around it, and the camera is just trying to compensate, and it just like has no idea what's going on. So if you're an expert GoPro user, by all means, let me know what I can do to stop that from happening, because I find it a little bit annoying. and I'm sure you guys do too. So leave a comment below and let me know if you have any ideas. All right, so now I have that paddle down to the size that I want. And here I'm going to be using the cobalt rod as a punty. And I should have sharpened it up before, like I was saying, but I didn't. So here I am back in the flame, heating it up again. And now you can see, there we go, sharpening it up. So I could use that for my cold seal. Again, make sure you get used to working with two hands. It's really, really critical if you want to do this type of work. I know I said it before in the video, but I'll say it again. Can never hear something enough, you know? So just keep that in mind. Okay, I got that punty all ready to go. And now pretty much the rest of the video is going to be just rounding out this design and getting that marble in a perfect sphere. So at this point, I will kindly give you a heads up. If you want to skip to the end of this video, by all means, go ahead and do so. I left timestamps in the description below. If you want to watch me round this out, um, that's cool too. You'll see how I put that nice red hot marble in the marble mold like I'm doing right now. And this is, again, pretty much all I'm going to be doing for the rest of the video. So I won't be offended if you skip to the end. It's all good things. And to use the marble mold, just so I can explain what I'm doing here, is you can see how nice and round it's becoming already. To use the marble mold, when you take it out of the flame, you want to wait a couple seconds for the glass to kind of develop like a thin film before you drop it into that marble mold. Because if you do not, you can like make the glass all misshapen and it will completely distort whatever you just worked on. So make sure you give it a couple seconds when you take it out of the flame before you go into the marble mold. And make sure you rotate as you go into the mold because gravity is constantly pulling that glass down. So when it is molten hot like that, you have to keep that in mind. Once you drop it in that mold, it can start to get misshapen if you're not rotating. So just a couple little tidbits to keep in mind when you're shaping your marble. Right now I'm attaching my cold seal punty. It wasn't on center, so I just cracked it off and I'm going to reattach. If your punties are not on center, take the couple seconds to pop them off and reattach them. It just makes your life so much easier when the glass is centered up. So don't think that you have to get it right on center the first time. You know, for me, I'm like 50% on center, so I am not an expert, and nor do I claim to be one. I just, enjoy melting glass and chilling out and teaching people. So, um, yeah, if it's not on center, take the extra like 5 seconds, pop it off, reattach, and get everything centered up before you continue. I know a lot of people when they're first starting, they like to just attach it, and it's like it's called crankshafting. It looks like the crankshaft of an engine. So when they're rotating, you could see that the glass is, the punty is all over the place. And it just makes your life so much easier that you just, get it on center from the get-go, right out of the gate, and, you know, everything will be smooth from there on out. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm going to go back into the marble mold. Again, wait a couple seconds before you go into the mold, and you rotate the mold or your marble, whichever one you prefer. This way you get all of the different angles and really get a nice, perfectly round marble when you're done with this. So it's looking pretty good already. And you shape one end at a time. And this is the lens that I'm, shaping right now. Just keep rotate, rotate, rotate. Turn that marble mold. And remember, this graphite is super hot right now, so be careful that you keep the hot side away from you when you place it on your work table, the radiant heat from the marble does transfer to the graphite. So just keep that in mind when you're working with your tools, that they can also pick up heat and potentially burn you. So, all right, here I'm cracking off that cold seal, and all you do is just gently tap it with another rod or your tweezers or whatever you have around. And now I'm just going to polish off that blep and melt it into the rest of the design. Since I use cobalt as a punty, the color matches perfectly. If you want to add colored dots to this, or like a twisty spirally effect, you can do that as well. I usually leave them solid in the back. Just like the way it looks. And right now, I'm just rotating that in the mold to make sure that there's no blemishes or imperfections that I missed. So look around, check it out, because now's the time when you could fix it, as opposed to when it goes into the kiln and you take it out and you realize, oh man, this has like a little dent here that I could have polished out, or it has like a little piece of extra glass that wasn't taken off. Check it before you put it in the kiln. Again, it takes you a couple seconds just to rotate it around in the mold and make sure it looks good. Try not to get the punty stuck when you do this. So if your glass is hot, again, wait a couple seconds before you touch that punty to it. And now it's going into the kiln for annealing. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out another cool glass blowing video while you're here. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.